Thank you, dear heart, and welcome everybody. Delighted that you're with us. And Miss Susan, is there anything we can support you with? It sounds like I just caught the last half a minute of Dr. Tim's show.
Well, it was very kind of Dr. Tim after he muted me and said, "Yeah, I'm struggling with this too," because I shouldn't have even pressed one. I wasn't ready to put words both on how I didn't understand the newer reading he's doing and connect it with an experience I've been having of, it's like all my edges are gone. He said, feel it and
That's
feel it
awesome.
and feel it. And I know, that's probably
about
what?
I don't remember exactly what it is. Interesting you say that, and I assume you're talking about emotional edges, but a significant amount of energy in the brain early in life goes into creating edge definition of literally showing us ourselves as separate, edge definition, and it takes a significant amount of brain energy to do that. So if you're letting go of that, you're getting a step closer to oneness, and that's pretty powerful. It's awesome.
Well, well, I don't know if that's what I'm doing or not, but the suffering of animals has been a focus lately, and of course that's a way of not taking on the suffering of people, and there's so much of that going on. But the only way I feel as if I can take part in it is to believe or feel that God is right there with it too. That God doesn't observe and know, but God is actually feeling it all. There's no separation between what God is experiencing and what we are. Once again, I'm losing words.
Well, there's an interesting statement in the scriptures that speaks about, shall there be evil in the city? And the Lord has not done it. And to me, what that refers to is there's one creative power, and you and I, we don't know how to do anything, but we can initiate, and something in us knows how to do it, and it's that something, and I agree with you, it's involved in absolutely everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. That feels true, but it's also a way of bearing it. Suddenly, if it's completely shared, I can take part in it, and I can even I feel as if it's presumptuous to say, but I can feel joy in it.
Well, if you bring your human life to any experience in the world, that's the definition of joy. At least the best one I know of.
Well, thanks for hanging in there with me on this. In a way, I guess Tim's right. I'm trying to figure it out, but
I can remember a picture of one of the saints when I was a kid. And this was a guy, the picture was Saint Sebastian, and he has, if I remember correctly, 3 arrows in his chest. And he has this beatific look on his face. And it's like, how can you do that? I mean, that's crazy. How can you do that? I understand now that if he's living as a non-being self in his body, then, that's an impossibility. But if he's living out of being and brings that to the experience, then the more powerful energy is that state of being, and that's what transforms everything.
Michael, my hearing aid, I tapped it because I had an itch, and I hung up on you, and so I had to dial back in, and I missed what was probably the best thing yet.
So I was mentioning, I was mentioning when I was a kid, I remember this picture of one of the saints, Saint Sebastian, And if I remember correctly, he had 3 arrows in his chest. Literally, he's been shot with 3 arrows. He's got his hands tied behind his back. He's on his knees. And he has this beatific smile on his face, this look on his face. And I can remember looking at that and going, how is that possible? I want to be able to do that. How is that possible? And now I understand that if he is in being rather than in his body's mind, if he's in being and he brings being to that experience, then I now understand what that looks like. And to open, to disconnect enough from the mind of the body to allow that in is, to me, that's the ultimate objective of the work. And then to bring that into every interaction, every experience that we have. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
My first thought when you described that picture is he felt wonderful because he had finally been punished enough to feel exonerated enough that he was actually neutral and no longer guilty. How's that for a worse and
well, that's a different set of brain cells.
It sure is.
There might be some work in that for you.
It might be.
And maybe you're innocent. Maybe it's time to proclaim your innocence.
Oh, okay.
Your inner sense. And I remember you sharing some time ago about as a kid, abuse of animals, so I can see that guilt might still be hanging around, and it might just be time to be finished with it.
That's true. It is. It comes up every once in a while. It's a weird thing about being awake in the middle of the night. Some kind of filter is off, and memories come up that are pretty unpleasant sometimes good ones, but things unfinished show up at night. Among them, the animals. Yep, the animals. Maybe that's one reason the suffering of animals bothers me so much now. I also been reading about how when you dump a lobster into hot water to get your food, to have it feed you, the lobster is actually screaming in pain. And people who cook lobsters can put a needle into between the eyes, pithing, the way we used to pith frogs in biology class to prevent them from feeling pain. They can do that with the lobsters, but nobody does that. They don't bother. They just dump them in. Or when they take baby chicks and they just grind them up without killing them first. They just dump them into the grinder. Awful stuff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what to do with that stuff quite, but one thing that's been happening is that I feel as if it's manageable if God is right there experiencing both the horror of it and the pain of it too.
And bringing the presence of love.
Yeah, well, just being, I didn't even translate it into love. Just the sharing of it is love. It feels like love. But I'm losing words, Michael, so you better take over. Not quite sure what's going on, but trying to stay with the reading that Tim, that was the hardest reading, and he bounces back to the way of mastery, which is so much more compatible with my ability to metabolize or something. It's easier to understand. In fact, I'm impressed that he has continued with this other author. To me, it's very hard going, bumpy. But I'm, of course, that he's doing it. I'm definitely interested because he's probably onto something that if it busts through, it might be great to understand.
Yeah. Well, remember, if we substitute for the actuality a 9-bit experience from carbon-based memory, then we think that's what's happening out there, but it's what's happening in here. And the objective is, if you find yourself substituting something painful for something that perhaps doesn't have any pain in it at all, and you forgive, then you've been given the opportunity to remove that energetic pattern from yourself and free yourself of it. Be your next worksheet topic.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll hold space for that.
Thanks. Okay.
All right. Well, any other thoughts for you? We're good. We're rocking. We're going to get a visit from our granddaughter and our new grandson. He's dressed in his costume as a bat at his 8-week age. And his sister, actually, I'm not sure what her costume is, but they're coming by this afternoon to visit. And then tomorrow we get to have them both for the first time for several hours. It looks like probably 2 or 3 hours.
This is Aria and Lincoln?
Aria and Lincoln, yes. Gabby's got some physical therapy to do tomorrow. He's dressed as a bat for Halloween, yes. And I guess Aria went to school in costume, so she's bringing them by in costume, and then tomorrow she has to go do physical therapy. It's going to be the first time she's left Lincoln, so she's leaving Lincoln with us for a couple hours while she does physical therapy. So we're excited that we're going to get to hold that little guy and just hang out with him.
Yeah. And what about Ryan? How's he? Is there any detraction from having to wait? As long as he's having to wait to have an operation, I mean, is he suffering at all, or is he just...
No, he seems to be in a pretty good space. He seems to be pretty settled and, resigned to this is what's going to happen. And they've given him some pretty good assurances, so I think he's feeling pretty good about the whole thing.
Good.
Is that accurate for you, Jeannie? Is that your take with Ryan right now?
He's doing really well. He actually had applied for a regional manager's job, and he contacted the gentleman that's over the hiring, and he told him, that he'd be having surgery and be out of work for 2 months. And he said, so I understand that this is an important job you need to fill, and I'll pull my application if you want. And the boss said, no, leave it in. So,
that's great.
Yeah. So he's getting really good support from his work, and, just taking one day at a time, and we're still looking for a place we've got a place reserved, but we're looking for something a little better that's closer to the hospital, because Gabby's going to be having to go back and forth to feed Lincoln, and Michael's going to get to keep Aria, Lincoln, and the dog by himself for a couple of days.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow, I wonder if there's any, I know at Yale New Haven Hospital, when we were in New Haven, one young man was told he couldn't come back to Yale because he had had a psychotic break and had been in a mental hospital. Wonderful guy, very bright, working on himself, feeling better, from Singapore. And he had no place to live, so he came to live with us. And, of course, his parents came from Singapore. So we had 3 people living in our house, and they could have lived in a Ronald McDonald house. They're probably all over the place. Do you know about them?
Yes,
sort of
I do.
Housing
Yes.
Yeah. And they'd been in there for a couple of days before I knew this guy from my AA meeting, and I just said, come and live with us. Our kids have just left for college, and we have space, and they did, and it was one of the most thrilling experiences. It's sort of like what's happening now with our Iraqi family. Just the sweetest people. And she taught me some kind of cooking she did, and that leads to tons of questions about the different personalities we exhibit when we speak a different language. How the language is so profoundly seated in our brains that we actually show different traits when we're speaking and thinking in that language.
Yes. Over the years, we've had several people who we've suggested when they're doing worksheets, where they speak English, but their root language where their trauma happened was another language, and we suggest they do that worksheet in that other language, and it produces a significantly different impact.
Yeah, but I got off track telling you all that. What I was saying is I wonder if there's someone around the hospital that would take you in. I don't know how you find that. We were just lucky.
I just actually did a Google search on Vanderbilt, and they do have a Ronald McDonald House. So thank you for that. I'll check on it.
Well, good. It might be good, and there may be some family, too, that can do that. People's situations change, and anyway.
Sure.
I just hate to think
thanks.
of the
We'll
idea
check
of you
that
guys
out.
sort of, it's too bad to be uncomfortable if you're going there.
The cheapest place we have found that we actually have booked is about $2,500, and
well, that's a hardship for some people. Yeah,
it is for us. I mean, it's an expense, especially at Christmas here. You know, we didn't plan on that, but you know,
right. I wonder if there's an app. You know, actually, I do know this. I have a friend. She's single and in her 70s, and she has a car but isn't living in a home, and she checked an app for house sitting, and she's now house sitting a family in Vermont who've gone away, and she's going to be in Vermont for a couple of months, sitting their house and pets, a couple of dogs.
Right.
And she is in pig heaven up there. She loves it. And I'm wondering if I could, if something, she's not paying anything. It's just a sort of an even exchange deal.
No. Well, we will look into that. Thank you.
I will. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, dear heart. Any other thoughts?
No, I'll listen. Thanks, Michael and Jeannie.
Okay.
I love you guys.
Blessings. All right, lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
We do have another hand up, and it's 828. I believe it's Magda. You're on the air.
Hey, hello, it is Magda, yes.
Good to hear your voice.
Thank you. I'm so very glad to hear that there are some great things happening with your family, and especially the fact that you will be able to be with the little ones today and tomorrow. That's cool.
Yes, we're looking forward to that. Tomorrow will be the first time we'll have him by ourselves and just get to hang out with him. So, and just, you know, the last time we were with the family, we did a week vacation a couple of weeks ago, and you know, he was still very newbornish, so there wasn't much expression. But now Gabby has been posting pictures of him with a big grin on his face and that sort of thing. So it's going to be a new level that we're going to get to play with him.
Oh,
that's going into 9 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What love. Lovely expression of our being. That's cool. I am calling for another reason today. I'm looking for direction, I guess. Let's see. And it revolves
How can we
around...
support you?
Okay. So
what's happening with your breath?
Not much.
Okay. I suggest we start there and take a couple of good deep.
I was joking. Okay. Okay. Better. Oh, way better. So, all right. This is revolving around a question I have about choices I've made during this election season. And I'm just trying to check myself and see if my reasoning was right on this. So because of where we live, and you know where we live, and because there are so many people in this area who have a lot of guns, and we'll question as to how many guns do you have? Oh, well, you better get more. And I mean, these are things that happen here, and because this is a highly Republican area for voting, and we are quite a part of the minimum of liberal votes. So anyway, I have, in the past, for other elections, I have gone door to door, and I have made calls. I've had signs in the yard, and things of that nature, being very involved, or at least somewhat involved. And I've chosen this time around not to do any of that stuff that is visible. And that is because of what I know about so many of our neighbors. I think it's better to keep a low profile of
Sounds
who
like
I
wisdom
am.
to me.
Does it now?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because
absolutely. I think the violence that's being perpetrated, both purposefully pointed and random, is so outrageous and so unpredictable. I'd say that's wisdom.
Okay. Well, then
That'd be my take.
Thank you so much. That's what I thought.
You know, there's that old saying that says, "Trust in Allah, but tie your camel." And I would say tying your camel comes first.
Yeah.
In this case, yeah.
Okay. That's
yeah,
great.
It's amazing the amount of violence, both the violent rhetoric, it's beyond belief. You know,
It truly is. Yes. I'm just peering out the window right now, and I see that one of our goats died yesterday, and I see that Chuck is doing his very best to deal with the body of our dear friend right now. And I want to get my boots and stuff and go out and help him if I can.
Okay. Well, we'll be extending love in your direction and safety.
Thank you so much. And I guess I'll have to listen to this later. Okay. Thank you for your feedback. Blessings.
All right. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we do have another hand up, and it's 541. I believe it's Celinda.
Welcome,
young lady.
Hey, we got back on again.
I know. I love it.
How are you this morning?
I'm good, and of course I have some thoughts about what has been shared with Susan and between Susan and Dr. Tim, and also between Magda and you, and Susan and you. I just want to hop in and share my thoughts.
Please, go for it.
Well, I understand totally where Magda is coming from, even though demographically Pine Valley is half Democrat and half Republican. It's a true borderland here in that respect, in the political respect. And our only ace in spades that we have up our sleeve as a community is this strong ethic of pioneerism. And if we don't pull together, we're going to perish together. What's happening here is there's been some Trump person who is might be my next door neighbor who is running around defacing and or removing all of the Democratic signs that this person he or she can find surreptitiously, which of course is an illegal action and an interference of the right of the right of free speech and assembly.
Free speech, yeah.
So I'm so glad that I had the COVID experience where I can just focus on being love, extending out into my world, because I have friends
joining you in
that. Friends on both sides. They're very precious people, and I know that, and we all have our blind spots, including me. So when Magda asked you for a suggestion or a feedback, and you gave her that wonderful tie up your trust God and tie up your camel, maybe your candle too.
Right. Keep your light out in the open, though. Keep the bushel basket off the candle and
right, off the candle. But realize that you're a flying target when you do that. So be at rest within your own spirit if you're going to do that. When the stress is up and the chips are down, but to use somebody's phrase, and I know the Dalai Lama's definition or distinction of what is smart and what is wise comes to mind that I shared with you, that we shared before. Being smart is knowing what to say. Being wise is knowing whether to say it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then the other thought I had was, when, I hear the good, the bad, and the ugly being said a lot, and that's very true, but there's something missing in that, and I always put it in for myself. And the way I say that expression, just to share it in fun, I say it's the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly that balances it out much more for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the beauty comes from my heart, but the good comes from my head. So if the Christ mind is, if I'm aligning myself, which my whole spinal injury really told me, that and Louise Hay's wisdom, that it's lacking the feeling the lack of life support. But what you have said so eloquently is our spines are our antenna, and in the course of my making choices and my ancestry both, and the choices my family made, ancestral family made, I have misaligned my antenna, and now with this extreme kyphosis, I think doubled when I had the accident, twice as worse at least.
Right.
I'm in a
but gave you the gift
now.
to bring it
a
to your
new
attention.
Learning curve. Pardon? Oh yeah. There's nothing
pun
like
intended, right?
if the carrot doesn't work, right? The 2x4 might.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I just am very encouraged with what Dr. Tim is reading. I mean, it seems like everything that I've been hearing, and I don't know whether I've got a popcorn machine in my brain bringing up new brain cells or what, but everything seems to be coordinating perfectly now.
Nice.
With my
Sweet.
hopefully willingness to be shown. And I've been asking that every day, willingness to be shown, asking to be shown, asking to be shown. And things are just being revealed. I'm getting in touch with my first husband's baby brother, and we're reestablishing a relationship. In fact, we're creating a new relationship because being as he was 9 years younger than I and Mike's baby brother, we didn't really have a relationship because as soon as we got married, Mike and I moved to...
You're on your own,
Yeah, moved to Oklahoma. In fact, I drove to Oklahoma on a learning permit because he had the flu. So I was a designated driver.
Memories.
Really. I said, thanks. Here I am on a learning permit, and I have to drive from San Diego to Oklahoma. That's like, give me a break. But I did it. But
you
anyway,
might want to let go of that request for breaking something, too.
Oh, yeah. Let's cancel that one right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one person that I worked with years ago who was overworking herself, and she kept saying that she needed a really long break. She needed a really long break. And the forearm, the longest bone in the body, she fell and broke it. And so she got her long break, and interestingly enough, resonance, and it's, by the way, it's the least broken bone in the body. Of any bone that breaks, that bone in the arm, the upper arm, is the least broken bone in the body. And about 6 months later, her former husband, who she'd been divorced from for, 15 or 20 years, he broke the same bone, which is just was interesting resonance, how we connect with and how the people we're intimately related with, energetically related with, are attuned to the same energetic patterns.
And how, I just, a thread just appeared between what you have just been talking about, a resonance, and your definition of regulatory speech, because your last explanation of regulatory speech, as every one of us has our own regulatory speech, every agency, every institution, every culture has its regulatory speech, and I had no clue that it directed our outward life, that it directed
it's our creative
reaction.
process. Yes.
Wow.
It's the psychic megaphone. It's literally the literal energy that is extended out into the world and directs or resonates, pulls people in, and unless someone who's pulled in by that is very conscious, it will literally direct their behavior. That's why, and I say it sort of tongue-in-cheek, but it really isn't. It's a fact. I ask people the question, have you ever taken the geographic cure and gone to the other side of the country where people will be different, and the person that picks you up at the airport finishes the sentence of the person that dropped you off started? It's like, how does that happen? And literally, a gift that I got from Marcel Vogel, who was a 23-year senior scientist with IBM, was that he literally showed us pictures of these high energy. I mean, that's so burned in for me, because he showed us pictures of these high energy waves. He had a specialized camera that could take a picture of literally when something in us moves, just like a stone moves on the surface of a pond, it sets up a wave. Every thought that moves in us, every word, which is a reflection of a thought, sets up a wave, and those energetic waves literally resonate people into our space, and in many cases take over and direct their behavior. Another question you've heard me ask is, have you ever gone into somebody's space totally committed to being loving and nurturing and caring, and all of a sudden found yourself functioning like a mad banshee? It's like, what happened? You walked into the field of someone else's regulatory speech that demanded that you be their abuser. And if you had that particular capacity to abuse, then that would be resonated. And of course, if you were really conscious, you'd forgive that abuse. If unconscious, then it would take over, and bang, there would be the why is this happening to me again experience for both people. It's all energy.
And now I'm beginning to see all of that connection, that web of connection in my own life. Like, why, in asking to be shown, I got the impression that I needed to call my little baby brother, Crawford, David Crawford, and because I wanted to ask some questions about my very, very dysfunctional relationship with my ex-mother-in-law. And I realized that I needed a different perspective on who she was than I had. And what we ended up sharing between stories and perceptions of what the other side had no clue about, it was the most amazing interchange. And I realized that I had even built up a bunch of perceptions about Dave that weren't true just by listening to him. And I wanted to share that. That was so powerful. and then what Tim has been reading and what you have been discussing in the Gospel of Thomas, and whatever comes up with people that call in, our other family members that call in. Yeah, I'm just very, very grateful that I have been led to a source of the joy, peace, and love that somehow just eluded me because of what I had built up in my own brain and mind about what my life meant, and all of my conclusions about myself and about being unsupported, including my relationship with Larry. Oh, he was so unsupporting of me. Maybe not. Maybe I just couldn't see it.
Right. Well, remember, if we're living in what might be a 20 trillion bit world,
yeah,
and we're locked into the output of a 9-bit carbon-based memory system that's got 1,000 generations of who knows what in it, rarely do we even start to perceive what's actually going on in the actuality.
Yeah.
Most people never get outside of their own reality structures.
Right. Well, I've got one finger out of the water and saying, "Oops, am I going down the third time, or is this the portal?"
Well, it sounds like you're heading in the right direction.
Well, and I have one thought about resistance and willingness, and and Ruha and how she works, that I thought I'd share with you because it brings great comfort to me. I was beating myself up about my resistance, and I got this little thought, and it was in connection to you saying, you and Tim saying, the Ruha, the Holy Spirit, or whatever you want to call her, will never violate our free will. You know,
right.
She cannot do anything unless we ask, and so unless we ask for whatever, it's just a question mark, right?
Yes.
And I realized that, and then you also have mentioned that, you know, Spirit will never show us something that we don't have the life energy to process. And I thought about that, and I thought about the indigenous stories about Coyote, the trickster, and I think that life likes to be a trickster too, in a way, because it's the joy of playing hide and seek or dressing up in costume. And I realized that I don't know whether I'm in resistance or whether I'm protecting myself, and rightfully so, because I don't have enough life energy. But Ruha does. And
there's an easy way to tell.
Well, sure, if we're in negative emotions.
Are you breathing?
I'm thinking, yes.
And we can even be in a negative emotion and not be in resistance.
I don't know.
We can be full-blown into a negative emotion. The key I would offer would be, are you breathing?
I'm breathing the best I can, considering my lung conditions.
Well, joining you in breathing well and healing those lung conditions.
And the kyphosis is problematic because, of course, it collapses that whole area of where you breathe from. So I'm in there working with it. I'm just about got my therapy program going. Have you ever have you ever heard about
let's take a breath for a second. Let's take a breath for a second. Let's just take a couple of deep breaths. And let's see your ability to open your spine to allow that full expansion to occur. And that you have the structural integrity to support it.
Yes.
And just allow yourself to breathe into that. Letting go of all thought and just being fully aware of your breath. And I know well from literally decades of life-threatening asthma what it is not to be able to take a breath. And so joining you in extending that breath.
And not
allowing
being
yourself
able
to just
it's the
let's let go of thoughts. Let's let go of thoughts in conversation right now. Words get in the way. I'm just inviting you to let go of all thoughts for a moment. I've noticed in the past that one of the ways that it appears to me, and I may be in error, this may be just my projection, but it appears that one of the ways that you go into resistance is to fill the space with words. So I just invite you to let go of that and let yourself fill yourself with breath and let your tissue structure know. And I'm visualizing inside of myself and offering that energy of visualization to you that everything your physiology needs becomes available and can support you in that. And I just invite everybody who's listening to the show, if you would, to just get quiet and imagine that you're right there beside Celinda. Together we're uplifting and opening, offering all the vitality, all the support, all the energy that you need, Celinda. In this moment, there is a power in you that knows exactly how to restructure everything in an instant. And as you freely breathe, allow that this may be that instant. And just tune into the support you got from people literally at this moment all over the world. Building a pulsing in my heart and in my lungs right now, and offering that pulsing to you. And also offering this would be a good time to be keeping your hand in the avacyn lots. And the thought that brought you up, that up is, I don't know if you heard in the background, but my avacyn just was shutting down. It was making a bit of noise. It's like, oh yes, let's make sure that we bring that one up too. Holding the space and extending that space to you. Holding you in our hearts. And Larry as well. How you be?
There are two emotions coming up. One is utter relief that I'm not alone anymore, and the other one is grief because my ego want to give up its story.
Good catch.
That it's abandoned and it's unworthy and there's no support.
So you've got full support, and you are worthy, and you're innocent.
Yeah, that's a big
and
one.
Who was it? Yeah, and who said it? Was it that said, if God is with me, who can be against me? And God never, I remember back several years ago, there was a couple, they were both medical doctors, and they came to an intensive at Heartland. I actually inherited one of the shirts. I don't know if I've still got it, but it was a picture of a little cartoon character on their T-shirts sitting on baggage, obviously at the bus station or train station or whatever. And the caption said, if God isn't in your life, guess who left town?
Yeah, right.
So, right. Ruka, the breath, you can refuse her, you can shut her down, you can pretend to separate from that power in you, but it's always been there, it's always been with you, and it always will be. Even if everything and everybody else is against you, and we're here for you. That's all, we're here for you.
Sweet.
I'm seeing your bones at the perfect density that they need to be to support you fully, being able to stand strong and square and powerfully in your space. And gather all the support you need.
Can you see me lying on my back so that I can put the avicen in? My hand in the avicen, because I can't lie on my back. And the bed is the only space in the motorhome that I can use.
Can you prop yourself up with pillows? Because whatever,
yeah.
To strengthen those bones, one of the main things that has to happen is circulation.
Right.
Those new nutrients that you're getting have to be in the bloodstream, and the bloodstream has to move to the cells in order to have that happen, and that's the super delivery that happens of blood to the cell through the avicen. And I get the sense that you've just undone several blocks, especially one that says, I can't receive. And I'm delighted to hear that you're receiving.
I am, from all kinds of sources, and I also, I think my asking to be shown is probably my most willing act, especially in the light of distrust.
Yeah. Asked to be shown and asked to be taught. Remember, specifically from the Aramaic, Ruka Dakucha is she who, one, undoes the effects of ours, and two, teaches us.
Yes. She's
teaches
also
us the
our
truth.
comforter.
Yeah.
She brings us into the wisdom. head, and heart?
When we breathe.
That is probably. I am looking into this mindfulness-based stress relief system of John Kabat-Zinn, full catastrophe living. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
I first heard of it through Bill Moyer's Healing with the Mind series in 1990. He did a whole segment.
And Moyers did some great stuff.
Yeah. So I have been.
He was a gift to the world.
Yes, in many ways. His interview with Grace Lee Boggs, his just so many things. The Joseph Campbell stuff. He's amazing.
Yeah, he did a lot.
But I've been meaning to, there's been an intention for ever since this full catastrophe, ever since I saw the Moyers special program. But when the book came out, I was going to get it and then I just kept putting it off. It was on my bucket list, right? And then about 3 months ago or so, I was perusing the free shelf on our local secondhand store, a full paperback copy of his revised edition of Full Catastrophe.
Let me get clear. You're saying full catastrophe living?
It comes from Zorba the Greek. When in the Zorba the Greek movie, where he's on the beach after his Zorba, Anthony Quinn, after his lover died, and the other young American who'd gone to Greece and was his friend, or he befriended, and his lover was killed. The Zorba the Greek goes on the beach and dances his grief. And there's a quote from that book that talks about the full catastrophe of life. And he decided on that title because his whole program is with working with people who have fallen through the cracks of the medical system. And I'm surprised there wasn't any mention of John Sarno, but when he originally wrote the book, I think Dr. Sarno was just coming into the realization of what he learned, which is totally in line with mindfulness-based stress reduction. And so I just found another little tool in my toolkit, sir.
Cool. Well, I'd support you maybe considering shifting the regulatory speech of that one to full blessing living, and gather the tools and put them to work.
I can full blessing living. Oh, okay. I will cross the catastrophe off, and
you don't need any more
put full blessing. Yeah, and everywhere I see full catastrophe, I'll put full blessing instead.
Yeah.
And that will work.
Different vibration for sure.
Cool beans. Thanks for that little suggestion. And thank you for everything that you have facilitated for today. It was a beautiful cherry on the top of the sundae of what's been happening this past 2 months, including the accident. Because if I hadn't had the accident, I wouldn't have been aware of the osteoporosis.
Right.
And so,
well, we'll see that clearing itself up very quickly. Your willingness to receive breath comes in and just fills in all those little spaces quickly and perfectly.
And also, for me, if I do a meditation, the meditation on the breath is the most effective.
Yeah,
it's
definitely
the one that works with me. And then also, and one other thing is that I am so grateful that the PA here at the little clinic is open to us co-creating a
program.
home
Nice.
therapy program for me, because I don't
Awesome.
have to go to Baker City. Yeah. So blessings to both of you. Thank you for taking this time with me, for inviting the whole community to support me, and for reminding me to breathe. And the Avison is sitting by my bedside, because I have been led to use it. And so you're telling me about the Avison was another confirmation. But I tend to sink down when I'm on pillows onto my tailbone, and so my vision is that I can lie on my back again without
I'll
it
hold the
being
space for
painful,
that.
Yeah, so I can slip
See
my
you living
hand
in whole blessing living, and
yes,
with
full blessing living.
osteoperfection.
With let me write that down before you leave, because I won't remember it until I get to the paper. Okay, so it's full blessing living.
And osteoperfection throughout your structure.
Yeah, of course my left arm is shaking like a banshee.
Letting more energy in, more power flows. All right. You have a blessed one, dear heart.
Thank you. Blessings
All right,
to you
take
both.
care.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. You can give it. The world needs it.